Hey, good to see you. Thanks for coming to hang out with me. Have you seen that Paul Rudd ad for the Nintendo Switch 2? Pretty cool, right? What they did was they showed an ad from the 90s where Paul Rudd was in a Super Nintendo ad, and he claimed that he was playing with power. I personally don't believe Paul Rudd knows what he's talking about. I think that he didn't have enough power in that ad. So I want to take a look at these trailers, but I want to examine them by taking a look at the least important part of those ads. I don't want to take a look at the consoles or the games. What I want to take a look at is how faithfully do they recreate the look of young Paul Rudd in terms of the costuming. This is not important at all, but it was the part that interested me the most. All right, let's take a look. Okay, we'll start out by taking a look at the original. And this is really interesting. This is such a cool look. So he's got black denim, leather boots, and I'm wondering what material his coat is, because this is very billowy. It's significantly billowy than coats that we see made in the last 15 to 20 years that have a lining and a thicker material. So I'm wondering what this is. It's quite loose and free-flowing. Now, something interesting to note is how wide the shoulders are. Obviously, this is a coat sized for a much taller person, but that's such an indication of the style of the 90s, is the overly loose fit. It was something that we saw start in the mid-90s as we moved farther and farther away from the tight-fitting jeans of the 80s and the tight-fitting shirts. Fashion and style tends to move in waves, and they go in opposites. So whereas in the 80s things got a little tighter, they were moving away from the massive flares and the bell bottoms of the 70s. In the 80s, fits got tighter, and then in the 90s we see basically people wearing giant massive shirts, giant pants. So the fact that he's wearing this huge coat, and looking at the sleeves, I believe it looks like they are rolled up here. So obviously this is for a taller, much taller person. Those sleeves look rolled up. The shoulders come to about here. So this is obviously a coat for quite a tall adult, but it's indicative of the look of the 90s here. We have these kids that seem to all have a similar look, but it's interesting that they're not allowed to look as flashy as Paul Rudd here. And we're going to do some comparison shots as well. That is so billowy. I can't believe how billowy that is. I don't believe that. He's got, of course, this is an interesting color. It's not exactly salmon. It's not red. It's somewhere in the middle. It's interesting. I want to point out this necklace that he's got. I didn't have anything in my props department that looked similar to that. It's some sort of metal. But it is catching light. I had originally thought it was wood. They were a couple pieces of wood put together, but I don't know what that is. It is some kind of metal, and it is difficult to tell due to the low definition of this what material the actual necklace is, but we'll see in the remake ad here that adult Paul Rudd is wearing, and this gives us quite a bit more to look at here. So we have a similar entrance following from above and behind. But I don't believe these are black denim jeans. This is a modern fit. These are just slacks. So I'm going to pay special attention to the sleeves, and it looks like, oh, okay. That's a cool detail. The sleeves are rolled up. I had not noticed that. I've only seen this about twice before to prepare for this video. So that's actually a point for faithfulness, the fact that they've rolled the sleeves up as well. That's a cool detail. I had not noticed that. Let's see if we can pause on just the right frame here. Yeah, you know what? I should probably... I didn't... See, in his younger form, he needed to roll the sleeves up in order to not have the sleeves draped over his hands. But I am noticing now, with the sleeves rolled up, they give him this more casualized look, and that's so cool. Now this ornament is actually, I'm noticing it now, it can't be the same one. It's very similar. It's a similar material and color, but is quite larger than what he had as a kid. It's significantly larger. We can see that this is a leather lace for the necklace strap. Now, we will do a comparison screenshot. We'll just go ahead and run through this. We don't really need to go through the whole thing here. I'm just looking at the remake sections here. So that's such a cool look. I think that's all we get. Hold on. We have him talking a little bit here. So, okay. So we get the full look. We have the fan blowing, billowing with his hair. And it's actually a similar cut as well. And we have a belt. Now here's the thing, that this belt, it's a modern dress belt. Similar style, but it's actually significantly thinner than what he wore as a kid. Let's go ahead and take a look at some comparison shots now. So similar belt, but that's quite a thick belt here. That's a black leather, but this is more of a dress belt than this one here. But the shirts are so similarly colored. I'm impressed. Now the colors are of course going to be different because these were color balanced differently. The lighting in this was quite cold, whereas we have warmer lighting in the remake. But what really intrigues me is how similar the lapels are. The cuts of the lapel, really cool. Now, if they wanted to have an even more similar look, they could have gotten an even larger sized coat for him here, so that the shoulders draped even more. But I think it's fitting. It's still loose, but they pick something that obviously fits a little bit better. I'm looking at the hang length here on the necklace. That is so similar. They've done such a good job here. Wow, that is shocking. I'm gobsmacked. I don't know if their costuming department sort of took measurements the way they did with The Thing 2011, where they sort of measured Kurt Russell's height so they could rebuild the sets. That is so similar in terms of hang length that I'm impressed. Now, this is hard to get right, style matching with these kind of lapels. This lapel, the angle that it is cut and the length of the lapel, older coats have significantly larger lapels, especially in the 60s and 70s. They were huge. 80s, things got a little boxy around the shoulders, which is why we have this. I believe this is more of an 80s suit. I don't believe this suit was actually made in the 90s. It's older than that. That is a longer cut on the lapel here, but it's so similar. It's such a good look. So they do lose a little points for not having a lapel that's even bigger, that's more exaggerated, but the shape, extremely similar. I'm very impressed with that. The hairstyle, points, they get points for that, is really, really similar. They did a great job. His hairline has not changed. Is that, wow. Paul Rudd's hairline has not changed at all in, how many years has it been? Is this 30 years difference now? Wow, I'm impressed. It's hard to tell about the material here because of the lighting. The lighting was very cold in the original. And his look of expression is, this looks like a kid who is trying to look scared but doesn't really know what true fear feels like. And this looks like the face of a man who just realized he has half a day left to file his taxes. And that's what true fear looks like. So this was cool. I really like the remake of this. They did such an incredible job. This is really cool. I mean, I'm going to nitpick. They should have gone with the black denim jeans. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, brilliant. This is really cool. I really like that. I enjoy Paul Rudd movies. Very cool, very fun. Okay, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at that. Thanks for coming to hang out today. I'll put some videos on screen if you want to just see some fun stuff and have a laugh with me. Okay, take care. See ya.